At our daughter's graduation, my husband whispered, "She doesn't know the truth." Hi everyone. Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. I thought I knew everything about my family, every scar, every story, every secret corner of our shared history. I thought that after 23 years of marriage and raising a daughter together, there were no more surprises left. I thought the foundation we'd built was solid, unshakable, made of truth and love, and all those promises we'd whispered to each other in the dark. I was wrong. But let me start at the beginning, because the beginning was beautiful. The beginning was everything I'd ever wanted. I met Thomas when I was 24, fresh out of grad school and working my first real job at a marketing firm in Chicago. He was 27, a junior architect at a firm 2 floors below ours in the same building. We met in the elevator during a fire drill, of all places, standing on the sidewalk with hundreds of other evacuated office workers, both of us annoyed at the interruption, both trying to check our phones for emails we couldn't afford to miss. He made a joke about how, if the building was actually on fire, we were all doomed because everyone was more concerned about their laptops than their lives. I laughed, and that was it. That was the beginning of us. Our first date was dinner at a Thai restaurant, where the air conditioning was broken, and we sweated through our clothes while eating the spiciest curry I'd ever tasted. He told me about growing up in Minnesota, about his dream of designing sustainable buildings, about his parents who'd been married for 35 years and still held hands. I told him about my chaotic childhood with 3 siblings, my love of old movies, my fear that I'd never quite figure out what I was supposed to be doing with my life. We got engaged 18 months later. He proposed during a weekend trip to Door County, on a beach at sunset with a ring he'd designed himself, a simple band with a small emerald, because he remembered me saying once that I'd never liked diamonds. I cried when I said yes, and he cried too, and we sat on that beach until the stars came out, planning our future like we were the first people who'd ever fallen in love. The wedding was in the spring, in my parents' backyard in Michigan. Small and intimate, just family and close friends. Thomas's vows made everyone cry. He promised to build me a home, not just a house, but a place where I'd always feel safe, always feel loved, always feel like I belonged. And he kept that promise. God, for so many years, he kept that promise. We moved into a tiny apartment in Wicker Park, all exposed brick and creaky floors, and neighbors who played loud music at 2 a.m. But it was ours. We painted the walls, hung up art from street fairs, spent Sunday mornings in bed, reading the newspaper and eating bagels. We were happy in that thoughtless, effortless way that young couples are when they haven't yet learned that happiness requires work. We talked about kids constantly, how many we wanted, what we'd name them, what kind of parents we'd be. Thomas wanted 3. I wanted 2. We compromised on 2.5, whatever that meant, and laughed about it like we had all the time in the world. I got pregnant when I was 28. It was planned, hoped for, dreamed about. When the test showed positive, I wrapped it in a box with a tiny pair of baby shoes and gave it to Thomas over dinner. He opened it, stared at it for a long moment, and then looked at me with tears streaming down his face. "We're going to be parents," he whispered. "We're going to be parents," I confirmed. We held each other and cried and laughed and started planning immediately. We moved to a bigger apartment, started buying baby things, read every parenting book we could find. My pregnancy was textbook perfect, no morning sickness, no complications, just 9 months of anticipation and joy and terror and excitement all mixed together. And then Lily was born. I will never forget the moment they placed her in my arms. She was red and wrinkled and screaming, and she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Thomas stood next to the bed with his hand on my shoulder, staring down at our daughter, like she was a miracle he couldn't quite believe in. "We made her," he said, his voice full of wonder. "We made her," I agreed. Those first few months were brutal, sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, the feeling that I'd never quite figured out what I was doing. But they were also magical. Watching Thomas hold Lily while she slept on his chest, seeing her smile for the first time, hearing her laugh, really laugh, at some ridiculous face I made. She was our everything. Our whole world narrowed down to this tiny person who needed us completely, who looked at us like we hung the moon, who made every sacrifice feel not just worthwhile, but sacred. Thomas was an incredible father. He did midnight feedings without complaint, changed diapers like a pro, sang her lullabies in his terrible off-key voice that somehow always made her calm down. He built her a crib from scratch, spent weekends making it perfect, sanding every edge smooth so she'd never get hurt. When Lily was 2, we bought our first house, a little bungalow in Oak Park with a yard and a good school district and neighbors who had kids the same age. It needed work, but Thomas saw the potential. He spent months renovating it, doing most of the work himself. He built Lily a treehouse, painted her bedroom the exact shade of purple she pointed to in a magazine, installed a swing set in the backyard. I have this memory from when Lily was 3. It was a Saturday morning, and I came downstairs to find her sitting at the kitchen table with Thomas. He'd made her chocolate chip pancakes, and she had batter all over her face. They were both wearing matching aprons he'd bought as a joke, and she was telling him some elaborate story about a princess and a dragon, and he was listening like it was the most important story he'd ever heard. I stood in the doorway watching them, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is everything I ever wanted. This is perfect. And for years, it was. It really was. Lily grew from a toddler into a little girl who was smart and funny and curious about everything. She asked a million questions, read books constantly, built elaborate structures out of Legos, and told us detailed stories about the people who lived in them. She loved science and art and music. She was terrible at sports, but tried anyway because Thomas coached her soccer team, and she wanted to make him proud. We did everything together. Family dinners every night, no phones at the table, weekend trips to museums, parks, anywhere Lily wanted to explore. Annual vacations to the same cabin in Wisconsin, where we'd swim in the lake and roast marshmallows and tell ghost stories. Holidays with both sides of the family, Lily always the center of attention, showered with love by grandparents and aunts and uncles. I have boxes and boxes of photos from those years. Lily's first day of kindergarten, standing in front of our house in a dress she'd picked out herself, holding a backpack almost as big as she was. Lily at her first piano recital, so nervous she almost ran off stage, but Thomas gave her a thumbs up from the audience, and she played the whole piece. Lily at Halloween, in costumes that got more elaborate every year. One year, she was Marie Curie, complete with a lab coat Thomas had made and test tubes full of colored water. Thomas and I fell into a rhythm. We weren't perfect, no couple is. We had arguments about money, about how to handle Lily's homework, about whose turn it was to do bedtime. But we always worked through it. We were a team, partners, building this life together, brick by brick. When Lily was in middle school, things got harder. She became moody, secretive, alternating between wanting nothing to do with us and needing us desperately. She got into fights with friends, struggled with math, spent hours in her room listening to music we didn't understand. Thomas handled it better than I did. He had this way of talking to her, of meeting her where she was, that I envied. He'd sit on the edge of her bed and just listen while she ranted about whatever drama was happening at school, and somehow by the end, she'd be laughing. High school brought new challenges, boys, parties, pressure to be perfect at everything. Lily joined the debate team, the environmental club, volunteered at an animal shelter. She got good grades but stressed about every test, every assignment. I watched her push herself so hard and wanted to tell her to slow down, to enjoy being young, but I also knew she got that drive from me. Thomas and I tried to stay connected through it all. Date nights when we could manage them, stolen moments of conversation over coffee in the morning, the occasional weekend away when Lily was at a friend's house. But I'd be lying if I said it was easy. Parenting a teenager while working full-time while trying to maintain a marriage, it was a lot. We were both tired all the time, stretched thin, running on autopilot most days. But we loved each other. I never doubted that. And we both loved Lily more than anything in the world. That was the foundation everything else was built on. Looking back now, I can see the cracks. The moments that should have been warning signs, but that I explained away because I didn't want to see them. Like the time when Lily was in 10th grade and asked me about genetics for a science project. She was learning about inherited traits, and she'd made this chart of eye color and hair color patterns in our family. She showed it to Thomas at dinner, excited about what she'd learned, and I saw something flash across his face. Something that looked like fear, or guilt, or something. But it was gone so fast I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Or the time a year later when I found him in his office late at night, staring at an old photo album. When I asked what he was doing, he closed it quickly, told me he was just feeling nostalgic. I asked if he wanted to look through it together, and he said no, that he was tired, that we should go to bed. I remember feeling shut out, confused, but I told myself he was just having a private moment, or the conversations that would stop when I walked into a room. Thomas on the phone with someone, speaking in a low voice, hanging up quickly when he heard my footsteps. Thomas and his mother, having an intense discussion in the kitchen during Thanksgiving, both of them going silent when I came in to refill my wine glass. There were other things too. Times when someone would make a comment about Lily looking just like Thomas's grandmother, and he'd change the subject. Times when doctors would ask about family medical history, and he'd give vague answers, say he didn't remember, suggest we focus on the present. Times when Lily would ask questions about his childhood, and he'd tell her stories that felt rehearsed, surface level, like he was reading from a script. But I didn't push. I didn't ask questions. Because everything seemed fine. Because our life was good. Because I trusted him completely and couldn't imagine why he'd keep anything from me. And maybe because some part of me didn't want to know. Senior year was a whirlwind. College applications, campus visits, standardized tests, essays rewritten a dozen times. Lily wanted to study environmental science, wanted to save the world, and I believed she could do it. She got into her top-choice University of Wisconsin-Madison, and when the acceptance letter came, we all cried and hugged and celebrated like we'd won the lottery. The weeks leading up to graduation were chaotic. Cap and gown fittings, senior events, parties with friends, preparations for her graduation party at our house. Lily was excited and terrified in equal measure, ready to leave but scared to go, eager for independence, but clinging to the safety of home. Thomas seemed quieter than usual during this time. I'd catch him watching Lily with this expression I couldn't quite read, pride mixed with something that looked like sadness, or maybe regret. When I asked if he was okay, he'd smile and tell me he was just emotional about her growing up. I understood that. I was emotional too. The night before graduation, we had a quiet dinner at home, just the three of us. I made Lily's favorite meal, chicken parmesan with garlic bread and Caesar salad. We talked about her plans for the summer, about move-in day in August, about all the adventures that were waiting for her. After dinner, Thomas gave her a gift, a leather journal he'd had engraved with her initials. "For writing down everything you're going to experience," he said, "so you don't forget." Lily hugged him tight, and I saw tears in both their eyes. That night, lying in bed next to Thomas, I felt overwhelmingly grateful. We'd made it. We'd raised this incredible human being and somehow not screwed it up too badly. She was healthy and happy and ready to take on the world. Everything we'd worked for, everything we'd sacrificed, had been worth it. "I'm so proud of her," I whispered in the dark. Thomas's hand found mine. "Me too." "We did good, didn't we?" There was a pause, just a beat too long. Then, "Yeah, we did good." I squeezed his hand and fell asleep, feeling like the luckiest woman in the world. Graduation day arrived bright and sunny, the kind of perfect June morning that felt like a gift. I spent an hour getting ready, wanting to look nice for the photos, for this milestone moment. I wore a blue dress Lily had helped me pick out, put on the pearl necklace Thomas had given me for our 20th anniversary. When we arrived at the high school, the parking lot was already packed. Parents and grandparents and siblings filing into the gymnasium that had been decorated with balloons and banners. We found seats in the middle section, close enough to see but not so close that Lily would be embarrassed. Thomas's parents were there, and mine had driven in from Michigan. Everyone was excited, taking photos, talking about how they couldn't believe Lily was graduating. Where had the time gone? It felt like just yesterday she was in kindergarten. I looked at the program and found Lily's name. There it was, printed in black and white. Lily Catherine Morrison. Our daughter. About to graduate with honors. About to give a speech as class historian. About to walk across that stage and into her future. The ceremony started with the principal's welcome. Then the valedictorian speech, which was funny and touching, and made everyone laugh and cry. Then it was time for students to receive their diplomas. Called up alphabetically, each name met with cheers from family and friends. I watched each student walk across that stage and thought about all the parents in this room, all of us feeling the same mixture of pride and grief, celebrating and mourning at the same time. Childhood was ending. Our babies were grown. Everything was changing. When they got to the M's, my heart started pounding. I grabbed Thomas's hand, squeezed it tight. This was it. The moment we'd been waiting for. Lily Catherine Morrison. She walked across the stage in her cap and gown, smiling that smile that could light up a room. The principal shook her hand, gave her the diploma cover, and she turned to face the audience. I could see her searching the crowd, and when her eyes found ours, her smile got even bigger. Everyone was clapping. I was crying, couldn't help it, tears streaming down my face. My baby, my little girl, all grown up and so beautiful and so ready for everything life had to offer. And that's when Thomas leaned over and whispered in my ear. His lips were so close I could feel his breath on my skin. His voice was calm, almost casual, like he was commenting on the weather or asking if I wanted to get dinner after this. She doesn't know the truth. The words didn't register at first. They were just sounds, syllables without meaning. I was too focused on Lily, on this moment, on the applause that was still echoing through the gymnasium. But then they sank in, settled into my brain like stones dropping into water, sending ripples through everything I thought I knew. She doesn't know the truth. I turned to look at Thomas. He was staring straight ahead, his expression neutral, like he hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of our daughter's graduation ceremony. What? I breathed. The word barely came out, caught in my throat. He didn't look at me, just kept watching Lily as she walked off the stage, still smiling, still glowing with happiness and accomplishment. "We'll talk about it later," he murmured. Later. He was telling me that our daughter didn't know some truth, some secret I apparently wasn't aware of either, and he wanted to talk about it later? My hands started shaking. My heart was pounding so hard, I could feel it in my throat, in my temples, in my fingertips. The room suddenly felt too hot, too crowded, the air too thick to breathe properly. What truth? What truth didn't Lily know? What truth didn't I know? I tried to focus on the ceremony, but everything had become background noise. More names being called, more students walking across the stage, more families cheering. But I couldn't hear it, couldn't process it. My mind was spinning, racing through possibilities, each one worse than the last. Was it about Thomas? Had he done something, hidden something, been someone I didn't know? Was it about Lily? About her birth, her childhood, something in her past? Was it about me? Had Thomas been keeping something from both of us? I looked at him again. He was still watching the ceremony, his face calm, his hands folded in his lap. Like nothing was wrong, like he hadn't just shattered everything with 6 simple words. I wanted to grab him, shake him, Demand answers right there in the middle of the graduation ceremony. But Lily's grandparents were sitting right behind us. My parents were next to them. Everyone was focused on the stage, on celebrating, on this happy moment. So I sat there, frozen, unable to move or speak or think clearly. My hand still in Thomas's, though now it felt like I was holding the hand of a stranger. The ceremony continued. More speeches. The turning of the tassels, the throwing of caps into the air. Pomp and circumstance, playing while all 300 graduates filed out. Everyone standing and applauding, and crying, and celebrating. I went through the motions. I stood when everyone else stood. I clapped when everyone else clapped. I smiled when people looked at me. But inside, I was screaming. After the ceremony, we all met outside on the lawn for photos. Lily found us immediately, still in her cap and gown, her face flushed with excitement. "Did you see me?" she asked, like she was 6 years old instead of 18. "I almost tripped on my gown going up the stairs." "You were perfect," Thomas said, pulling her into a hug. "We're so proud of you." I hugged her too, held her tight, breathed in the scent of her shampoo, and tried not to fall apart. This was her day, her moment. Whatever truth Thomas was hiding, whatever bomb he was about to drop, it could wait a few more hours. It had to. We took what felt like 1,000 photos. Lily with us, Lily with each set of grandparents, Lily with her friends, all of us together. Everyone kept commenting on how much Lily looked like Thomas' same dark hair, same tall frame, same way of tilting their head when they were thinking. Every comment felt like a knife now. Did she look like Thomas? Or had I just convinced myself she did because that's what you do? You look for similarities. You find connections even when they might not be there. The graduation party at our house was packed. Friends, family, neighbors, teachers. Lily was in her element, moving from group to group, accepting congratulations and gifts and advice about college. I played hostess on autopilot, refilling drinks, bringing out more food, making sure everyone had what they needed. Thomas was across the room, talking to his brother, laughing at something, acting completely normal. Like he hadn't just destroyed everything, like he hadn't whispered those 6 words that I couldn't get out of my head. She doesn't know the truth. My mother found me in the kitchen, noticed my hand shaking as I tried to arrange cookies on a platter. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look pale." "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired. It's been a long day." "It's a good day, though," she smiled. "Your daughter is amazing. You and Thomas did such a good job raising her." Did we? I wanted to scream. Did we really? Or was everything I thought I knew about our family a lie? But I just smiled and thanked her, and went back to arranging cookies in perfect rows, like it mattered. Like anything mattered, except getting through the next few hours until everyone left, and I could finally demand answers. The party finally ended around 10. The last guests trickled out, and Lily went upstairs to change and call her boyfriend. Thomas started cleaning up, and I helped in silence. We moved around the kitchen like choreographed dancers who'd done this routine 1,000 times, but the silence between us was deafening. When the kitchen was clean and Lily had gone to bed, exhausted from the excitement of the day, Thomas and I finally faced each other in the living room. "Okay," I said. My voice sounded strange, too calm, like I was floating above my body watching this happen to someone else. "Talk." He sat down on the couch, ran his hands through his hair. The gesture was so familiar. I'd seen him do it 1,000 times when he was stressed or trying to figure out how to say something difficult. But now even that familiar gesture felt like a lie, like I didn't actually know this man at all. "I don't know how to start," he said. "Try the beginning." My hands were clenched into fists at my sides. "Try with what truth Lily doesn't know, what truth I apparently don't know either." He looked at me then, and I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. Guilt. Deep, terrible, soul-crushing guilt. "She's not my biological daughter," he said. The words hung in the air between us. I heard them, I understood them, but they didn't make sense. They couldn't make sense because if they made sense, then nothing made sense, then everything was wrong. Then my entire life was built on a foundation that didn't exist. What are you talking about? My voice was getting louder. Of course she's your biological daughter. She's our daughter. I was pregnant with her. I gave birth to her. You were there. I know you did, but... He stopped, closed his eyes. Before we met, before you and I got together, I had a vasectomy. The room tilted. I actually stumbled, had to grab the back of a chair to steady myself. You what? I was 25. I'd just gotten out of a bad relationship, and I was sure I never wanted kids. So I had a vasectomy. It was stupid, impulsive, but I did it. But you told me, when we were dating, when we talked about having children, you said you wanted them. You said you wanted 3. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't get enough air into my lungs. You lied to me? No, yes. About the vasectomy, but not about wanting kids. When I met you, everything changed. You talked about the family you wanted, and I realized I wanted that too. With you. Only with you. So I looked into reversals, but it had been too long, and the chances of success were really low, and I knew you wanted kids soon, and He was talking faster now, words tumbling over each other. I panicked. I didn't want to lose you. So you just... What? Hoped I wouldn't get pregnant and then dealt with it? No, I went to doctors. I tried everything. I was going to tell you eventually, was trying to find the right time, but then you got pregnant, and I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I got pregnant, but if you had a vasectomy, if you couldn't... I saw the truth on his face before he said it. The guilt, the shame, the terrible secret he'd been carrying for 18 years. You had an affair. My voice was flat, dead. You got pregnant because you had an affair. No. God, no, Catherine, that's not... He stood up, took a step toward me, but I backed away. You had an affair. You got pregnant with someone else's baby. And I knew. I knew from the beginning that she couldn't be mine, but I didn't say anything because I didn't want to lose you. The world stopped. Everything I thought I knew, everything I believed about myself, about my marriage, about my life, all of it shattered in an instant. I had an affair. I had gotten pregnant. Lily wasn't Thomas's daughter, but that was impossible. That was insane. I would remember something like that. I would know if I'd... And then I did remember. Oh God. Oh God, oh God, oh God. It was a work conference in New York, 3 months before I found out I was pregnant. Thomas had been working crazy hours on a big project, was distant and stressed, and I'd been feeling lonely and unappreciated. There'd been this guy at the conference, someone from a firm we were trying to partner with. We'd had drinks. Too many drinks. And I sank onto the couch, my legs giving out. James. What? Thomas looked confused. His name was James, the guy from the conference. It was one night, one stupid, drunken night. I felt so guilty afterward, so horrible. I came home, and I was going to tell you. I swear I was going to tell you. But you just found out you got that promotion, and you were so happy, and I convinced myself it didn't matter, that it was one mistake, and it would never happen again, and... I was going to be sick, actually going to vomit right there on our living room floor. You knew, I whispered. All this time, you knew that Lily was his daughter, not yours, and you never said anything? Thomas sat down next to me, keeping some distance between us. When you told me you were pregnant, I was happy, so happy. And then I started doing the math, and I realized the timeline didn't work, couldn't work, because of the vasectomy. So I knew, but I also knew that you'd come back from that conference different, guilty, and I put it together. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you confront me? Because I didn't want to lose you, because I loved you, because I'd been lying to you too about the vasectomy, and I realized that maybe this was... He laughed bitterly. I thought maybe this was the universe's way of giving us what we both wanted. A baby, a family, a chance to start over. Start over? Thomas, you let me believe, for 18 years, you let me believe that you were Lily's biological father. You let her believe it. I am her father. Biology doesn't change that. I was there when she was born. I changed her diapers. I taught her to ride a bike. I helped her with her homework. Every moment of her life, I've been her father. But you're not. Don't you understand? She has a biological father out there somewhere who has no idea she exists. And my voice broke. I have to live with the fact that I cheated on you, that I got pregnant with another man's child, that I've been lying to my daughter her entire life. You didn't know you were lying. I made sure you didn't know. How? How did you make sure? He looked away. I found out who he was. James Chen, right? Works for Peterson Associates in New York. I looked him up after you got pregnant, found his contact information, and I had a friend who works in law send him a letter saying that if he ever contacted you again, there would be legal consequences. Made it seem like it was coming from you, like you were threatening him. I stared at him in horror. You did what? I couldn't risk him reaching out to you, couldn't risk you figuring it out, so I made sure he'd stay away. Jesus Christ, Thomas! I put my head in my hands. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. We sat there in silence for a long time. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall, the sound of a car driving past outside, Lily moving around upstairs in her bedroom. Normal sounds from a life that was no longer normal, that had never been normal, that had been built on lies from the very beginning. Why are you telling me now? I finally asked. Why today, of all days? Because she's 18. Because she's an adult now, legally, and she has a right to know. Because I've been carrying this secret for 18 years, and I can't do it anymore. His voice cracked. And because I love her too much to let her spend her whole life not knowing the truth about where she came from. You love her too much? You love her too much? If you loved her, you would have told her years ago. You would have given her a choice about whether she wanted to know her biological father. She was a child. I wasn't going to destroy her childhood with this. So instead, you waited until the day of her graduation? The day she's supposed to be celebrating? You're going to destroy that instead? I'm not telling her today, but soon. She deserves to know. I laughed, but it came out harsh and bitter. She deserves to know. Fine. Let's tell her. Let's go upstairs right now and tell our daughter that I cheated on you 18 years ago, got pregnant with another man's child, and you've both been lying to her about it her entire life. Let's see how that goes over. Catherine, don't! I stood up, started pacing. My mind was racing, trying to process everything, trying to figure out what this meant, what happened now. I need to think. I can't be here right now. Where are you going? I don't know. Anywhere but here. I grabbed my keys and walked out, got in my car and just drove. No destination in mind, just needing to move, needing to get away from that house and that conversation and that horrible truth that I couldn't unknow. I ended up at a park near our house, sat in my car in the empty parking lot, and finally let myself fall apart. I cried for Lily, who was about to learn that her entire identity was built on a lie. I cried for Thomas, who'd carried this secret for 18 years, who'd loved a child who wasn't biologically his, who'd made an impossible choice and lived with it every day. But mostly, I cried for myself, for the woman who'd made one terrible mistake and never knew the consequences, for the mother who'd looked at her daughter every day and never seen the truth, for the wife who'd built a marriage on quicksand and thought it was solid ground. I thought about James, the man from the conference whose face I could barely remember now, the biological father of my child. Did he ever think about that night? Did he ever wonder what happened to me after Thomas's threatening letter? Did he have any idea he had a daughter? And what about Lily? God, Lily. She was about to learn that everything she thought she knew about herself was wrong, that the man who'd raised her, who she called Dad, who she looked up to and loved with her whole heart, that man wasn't her biological father, that her mother had cheated, had gotten pregnant, had never known the truth until tonight. How was she supposed to process that? How was any of us supposed to move forward from this? I stayed in that parking lot until almost 3 a.m. Eventually, I had to go home. Had to face whatever came next. Thomas was still awake when I got there, sitting in the dark living room like he'd been waiting for me. Neither of us spoke. I just went upstairs, checked on Lily asleep, peaceful, still innocent of the bomb that was about to drop, and then went to our bedroom. I slept in the guest room that night. Couldn't bear the thought of sharing a bed with Thomas, with the man who'd lied to me for 18 years, who'd let me believe a fiction, who'd made choices about my life without my knowledge or consent. Over the next few days, Thomas and I barely spoke. Lily noticed something was wrong, asked if we were fighting, and we both lied and said we were just tired from all the graduation celebrations. She accepted it because why wouldn't she? We'd never given her a reason to think we'd lie about something important. A week after graduation, I finally agreed to sit down with Thomas and figure out what we were going to do. "We have to tell her," he said. "We can't keep this from her anymore." "I know," I said. And I did know. As much as I wanted to protect her, as much as I wanted to keep her safe from this truth, I knew she deserved to know. But how? How do we tell her something like this? Together. We tell her together. We explain that we both made mistakes, that we both lied, but that we both love her more than anything in the world. That's not going to be enough. You know that, right? This is going to change everything. I know. His voice was heavy with grief. But we don't have a choice anymore. We decided to wait until after her graduation party at Thomas's parents' house the following weekend. One more week of normalcy. One more week of her not knowing. One more week of being a family before everything changed. That week was torture. Every time I looked at Lily, I saw the truth written on her face, the shape of her nose that didn't quite match either of ours, the color of her eyes that was just slightly different from mine, the way she moved that reminded me of someone I'd spent one night with 18 years ago and then never thought about again. Or had I thought about him? Had there been moments over the years when I'd looked at Lily and wondered, deep in my subconscious, why she didn't quite look like us? Had I pushed those thoughts away because I didn't want to face what they might mean? The party at Thomas's parents' house was bittersweet. Lily was happy, excited about college, making plans with friends for the summer.